The worst early sign of dementia that few people know about. Did you know dementia can start almost invisibly? Often, it gives its first signs in routine gestures, in situations so common that no one suspects what's really going on. And that's exactly why so many people take a long time to notice. Time passes, symptoms get worse, and when someone finally spots them, it might already be too late. But there's one detail, one clue, one specific behavior that repeats in almost every case. It's the real first alarm, the thing that separates normal forgetfulness from the start of serious cognitive decline. The most striking part is that this sign is present in many people right now, without them knowing. A sign that, if ignored, can completely change the course of a life. Can you recognize it? Watch until the end and discover what few dare to say. Because sometimes what seems the most innocent hides the biggest danger. Number 12. Trouble expressing yourself. One of the most subtle but extremely alarming early signs of dementia is having trouble finding common words during conversation. The person starts to get stuck on simple sentences, pauses for long moments, or swaps words for others that don't make sense. This goes beyond the usual blanking out we all experience sometimes. Here, everyday language becomes a frustrating and puzzling challenge. And it's not uncommon for the person to realize they're struggling more to communicate, which just makes them more anxious. This language problem can show up in speaking and writing. Someone who used to write smoothly starts making grammar mistakes, forgetting basic words, or repeating ideas in a confusing way. Vocabulary shrinks, and speech becomes vaguer and more limited. Comprehension is also affected. The person might not understand simple instructions or lose track of conversations. This harms social interactions and can lead to frequent embarrassment. Over time, communication becomes a tiring effort. Imagine not being able to ask for a glass of water because the word water disappeared from your mind, even though you know what you want. This disconnect between thought and verbal expression is distressing. Often, it leads people to avoid talking to not expose themselves. Silence becomes a refuge from the fear of being misunderstood or messing up again. Family members usually notice the person is quieter, less engaged, or relying too much on generic phrases. Comments like "that thing" or "that stuff" replace fuller descriptions. Sometimes the person starts sentences and never finishes them. Word or phrase repetition also increases. These patterns might seem like tiredness or distraction, but are clear signs of early cognitive changes. It's important to observe if trouble expressing yourself happens often and affects daily communication. A one-off episode might be irrelevant, but repeated occurrences suggest something more serious is going on. When language, one of the most complex human skills, begins to fail, it's time to investigate deeply. The earlier this happens, the better the chances of treatment success. Number 11. Isolation and apathy. Social withdrawal is one of the most painful and often overlooked early signs of dementia. Someone who used to enjoy going out, talking, and interacting with others starts refusing invitations, avoiding gatherings, and shutting themselves at home. It's not just momentary tiredness or shyness, but a deep loss of interest in social connections. This behavior often comes with apathy, a general lack of motivation that turns life into a colorless routine. This change can be mistaken for depression, which is common since symptoms overlap. However, when apathy appears alongside other cognitive clues, like frequent forgetfulness or confusion, it's time to raise the alarm. The brain undergoing deterioration reduces activity in areas related to empathy, initiative, and social pleasure. This makes social contact feel like a burden instead of a joy. Over time, isolation creates a dangerous cycle. The less a person interacts, the fewer stimuli the brain gets to stay active. This speeds dementia's progression and weakens other cognitive abilities. Conversations, even simple ones, act as mental exercises. Without them, the mind loses agility. Emotionally, isolation damages well-being, causing loneliness and distress. Families usually notice the person becoming quieter, uninterested in visits, and increasingly absent from interactions. Missing family gatherings, parties, or even small daily chats becomes frequent. This may seem like personality traits, but is actually a sign something more serious is happening. Losing interest in socializing isn't natural with aging. It's essential to understand this apathy isn't laziness or bad will. It's a real brain change affecting motivation and emotional response. The earlier it's identified, the better the chances to improve quality of life with proper interventions. Family support and medical monitoring make all the difference. Encouraging bonds and maintaining connections is vital for mental health. And remember, Although this is a strong sign, the most dangerous one is yet to come. In the last chapter, you'll discover the most worrying dementia indicator and why it demands maximum attention. Number 10. Trouble with visual spaces. Tripping over rugs, confusing stairs with false steps, not recognizing objects right in front of you. These might seem like simple distractions but signal something deeper when frequent. Difficulty interpreting images or understanding visual spaces is an early and worrying sign of dementia. The person starts having trouble perceiving their environment, which compromises simple daily activities. This symptom directly affects mobility and independence. Reading, for example, becomes hard because letters look scrambled or tough to follow. The person might stop driving not from fear, but because they feel visually disoriented. This happens because brain areas responsible for visual processing start malfunctioning, changing spatial and visual perception. It's common for people with these difficulties to bump into furniture, fall more often, or drop things. These situations cause frustration and insecurity, often leading to self-imposed confinement. The person avoids going out, walking, or doing simple tasks out of fear of injury. Losing trust in one's own perception speeds isolation and worsens other symptoms. It's important to note the problem isn't with the eyes, but the brain. Even with normal eye exams, the person feels their vision isn't right. This is typical of neurological impairment caused by dementia and needs specialized evaluation. Confusing reflections, mirrors, or TV images can also be clear signs. In some cases, the elderly start doubting their surroundings, thinking furniture has moved or that there are objects where they shouldn't be. This can trigger anxiety or even paranoia. These visual reality distortions show the mind is struggling to interpret what the eyes see. Every little trip or recurring visual confusion can be the brain's cry for help. Don't ignore these signs. They might be the warning of something bigger. Number 9. Sudden mood swings. One of the most striking manifestations of dementia is abrupt mood and behavior changes. A person once calm and kind might get easily irritated, respond aggressively, or even become suspicious of family and friends. These emotional shifts happen for no obvious reason and cause pain for both the person experiencing them and those around them. Emotional instability reflects the internal confusion caused by brain deterioration. As dementia progresses, emotional control gets harder. The brain loses its ability to regulate feelings and reactions, making emotions more intense and unpredictable. Sadness appears without triggers. Anxiety comes out of nowhere. Anger explodes over trivial things. These swings aren't intentional, they're signs of a neurological system out of balance. A common behavior is suspicion. The person may start thinking someone is stealing their stuff or plotting against them. They might refuse help, shut down, or react hostilely to advice and care. At other times, sudden euphoria, out-of-place laughter, or disproportionate restlessness occur. These changes confuse families and complicate daily care. It's also common for the person to lose social filters. They might say inappropriate things, make offbeat jokes, or say aggressive comments in public. This doesn't mean they've turned into a bad person, but rather that they're losing the ability to tell right from wrong socially. Moral judgment and empathy weaken. This change can be painful to witness, but remember, it's not their fault. Mood swings don't come alone. They're usually accompanied by other cognitive symptoms. So, when behavior starts changing constantly and inexplicably, it's time to investigate. The emotional impact of this dementia phase is deep, but can be eased with psychological support and proper care. And don't forget, the most dangerous sign is still to be revealed. In the last chapter of this video, you'll understand the most alarming dementia clue and why it needs double attention. Number 8. Trouble with daily tasks. Simple activities that were always automatic suddenly become confusing. Cooking a meal, making coffee, or using a remote control require extra effort and attention. The person forgets basic steps, mixes up actions, or just doesn't know where to start. This growing difficulty doing routine tasks is a clear sign of early cognitive impairment. As dementia advances, the brain struggles to organize sequential information. This affects planning skills, remembering instructions, or understanding steps. That's why simple household chores requiring logical order become challenging. Something like doing laundry or organizing objects stops being automatic and becomes a tiring mental exercise, often frustrating. It's common for the person noticing their struggles to avoid doing these tasks or fail to complete them. This can cause conflicts with family members who don't understand why someone once independent is now dropping everything. But it's not carelessness or laziness, it's a brain having trouble carrying out basic actions. These signs also appear when using technology. Cell phones, microwaves, even TV use can become confusing. The person forgets how to turn on devices or access functions they once mastered. Sometimes they leave the stove on or forget to turn off an appliance. Small failures that, when combined, reveal a worrying picture. Even simple motor activities like combing hair or putting on clothes can feel awkward. The brain loses the ability to coordinate movements logically and purposefully. This can cause anxiety, insecurity, and often shame. It's common for the individual to hide these mistakes socially, worsening isolation. And remember, although these signs are serious and clear, the worst is yet to come. In the last chapter, you'll meet the most concerning dementia clue, the one that should never be ignored. Number 7. Changes in writing and speech. A silent but revealing transformation is how writing and verbal expression change. Handwriting that was once steady and clear becomes shaky, irregular, sometimes illegible. Speech might become repetitive, fragmented, or confusing. The person loses track, swaps simple words for nonsensical ones, or repeats sentences they just said moments before. These changes aren't linked to education or schooling. They happen because specific brain areas responsible for language and fine motor coordination begin to fail. Writing a sentence or formulating an idea verbally demands cognitive effort that's already compromised in early dementia stages. The result is disconnected messages, frequent pauses, and uncomfortable hesitations. A classic sign is when the person starts using vague words like thing, that, or this way too much. This happens because they know what they want to say, but can't find the exact word. This block, called anomia, is one of the first noticeable cognitive decline symptoms. In writing, letter swaps, word omissions, or phrase reversals also become frequent. Communication becomes a source of frustration. The person might get annoyed with themselves for not being understood or feel ashamed for speaking wrong. Many start avoiding longer or deeper conversations, opting for silence and one-word answers. This worsens social interaction and emotional well-being. Note that these problems don't appear suddenly. They develop slowly, almost unnoticed, until they become too frequent to ignore. Early intervention can help slow the process, improving communication and patient self-esteem. Despite how serious this sign is, there's still something more alarming. The last chapter of this video will reveal dementia's most dangerous and least noticed symptom. Stay tuned. Number 6. Neglecting personal hygiene. One of the most visible and most distressing for family behaviors is neglecting personal hygiene. Someone who always took care of their appearance suddenly stops bathing, stops brushing their teeth, or wears the same clothes for days. This neglect might be mistaken for laziness, but it's actually a strong warning sign that something's wrong with brain function. The problem isn't just physical. The person no longer feels the need to care for themselves or simply forgets they need to. The act of personal hygiene, which involves steps and planning, becomes confusing. Where to start? What to wear? Bathing or brushing teeth? These questions, once automatic, become hard to answer. There's also progressive loss of time awareness. The person might think they bathed yesterday when days have passed. Daily routine perception becomes distorted, directly affecting hygiene habits. This also extends to eating, house tidying, and medication management. This lack of care can cause social embarrassment. Friends and family start noticing bad odors, messy hair, dirty clothes. This can lead to unfair judgments, only increasing the person's isolation. Instead of criticism, they need support, understanding, and careful medical evaluation. Neglecting hygiene isn't an aesthetic problem. It's a direct reflection of dementia's impact on autonomy and reality perception. This sign indicates the brain is already struggling to maintain basic self-care behaviors. But beware, even this visible sign isn't the worst. In the last chapter, you'll find out which symptom is the most dangerous and why it's crucial to recognize it in time. Number 5. Losing track of time. One of the symptoms most overlooked early in dementia is losing track of time. The person starts mixing up days of the week, swapping morning for afternoon, or thinking something that happened months ago was yesterday. This disconnect from real time isn't just occasional forgetfulness, it's the brain failing to orient itself on the calendar and event sequence. This disorientation goes beyond not knowing what day it is. It affects following routines, preparing for appointments, and even keeping schedules. The person might wake up in the middle of the night thinking they're late for an event that happened days ago. or schedule a doctor's appointment for a past date without noticing the mistake. The timeline, once natural, becomes a maze. Over time, this confusion starts to harm daily life. The person misses appointments, is often late, or dresses inappropriately for the weather or time of day. In later stages, they might forget the season or not know if it's 2025 or 2015. The brain loses the ability to organize time coherently, compromising overall reality perception. This type of disorientation also affects short and long-term memory. The person might relive old memories as if they were recent and completely forget important events from the day before. This causes confusion in relationships, frustration for family, and constant insecurity for the patient. The mind stops being a reliable guide to one's own life. Losing track of time is a clear warning that the brain struggles with organization and processing. When this symptom appears along with forgetfulness and visual confusion, urgent professional help is needed. The sooner intervention starts, the more quality of life can be preserved. And note, as serious as this symptom is, it's not the worst. In the last chapter of this video, you'll discover the most dangerous and urgent sign to recognize. Number 4. Getting lost in familiar places. Getting lost in a neighborhood you've always known, or not being able to get back from the supermarket are extremely alarming situations. When someone begins to get disoriented in places they've always been familiar with, it signals serious brain trouble with spatial memory. This kind of confusion isn't common and requires immediate attention. The person might go out for a walk and forget the way back, or be inside their own home and not know how to get to their bedroom. These experiences are scary for both the person and family since they involve real safety risks. The person might panic, feel lost, or even be found wandering aimlessly. This symptom directly affects autonomy and freedom. Simple tasks like shopping or visiting a friend become risky. That's why many families start limiting outings, increasing isolation, and worsening mental health. Spatial disorientation damages self-confidence and independence. Also, this confusion causes intense emotional stress. The person might feel humiliated for having gotten lost at home or not recognizing places they once knew well. This shakes self-esteem and can trigger anxiety or depression. Disorientation isn't just a locating failure, it's a collapse of internal mental structure. This sign is often what pushes families to seek a formal diagnosis. Losing orientation in familiar places is one of the clearest markers that something is seriously wrong with cognitive function. Once identified, it should never be ignored or dismissed as just aging. But even so, it's not the worst yet. The final chapter of this video will reveal the most dangerous symptom of all. Stay alert because it might be present without notice, and it's the most important to recognize in time. Number 3. Difficulty solving simple problems. Things that used to seem easy, like following a recipe, putting together a puzzle, or paying a bill, suddenly become complex or even impossible. Difficulty planning or solving simple problems is one of the earliest signs something is wrong with the brain's executive functions. This symptom tends to develop gradually, becoming noticeable only when it already affects daily life. The person might get lost with basic instructions, forget steps in simple tasks, or feel paralyzed when making everyday decisions. Something like choosing a route to the market or organizing a shopping list becomes anxiety-inducing. The brain, which used to organize, evaluate, and decide naturally, begins to fail in these commands. This impairment can cause intense frustration. The individual feels like they're failing at things they always did easily. It affects self-esteem, motivation, and the desire to keep a routine. Over time, this feeling of incapacity leads to withdrawal, as the person tries to avoid situations where they might make mistakes. Even basic math, like adding simple numbers or managing expenses, becomes hard. Reading bank statements or recipes can feel confusing. This practical difficulty affects financial, domestic, and social life, causing discomfort and often real losses. Families should watch for when the person starts avoiding tasks they used to enjoy. This avoidance might mean they already notice their limitations but don't know how to ask for help. A supportive environment and early intervention can minimize impacts and maintain autonomy longer. And note, even this serious condition isn't the most critical. The last chapter will show the most dangerous and silent dementia sign, the one that might be happening without anyone noticing. That's why it's the most important. Number 2. Constant repetition of questions or stories. Have you ever talked with someone who repeated the same question many times in just a few minutes? Or told the same story 3 times in one meeting, as if it were the first time? This behavior is one of the most classic and painful early signs of dementia. Constant repetition isn't simple distraction. It reveals a failure to consolidate short-term memory. The person asks a question, gets an answer, but minutes later asks again, totally unaware they already heard the response. This cycle can repeat countless times daily, which is exhausting for both the person and those around them. At first, it might be mistaken for inattention or disinterest, but the problem is deeper. The brain no longer records recent information. In practice, this means immediate memory is wiped out before it even settles. The individual lives in a kind of continuous present where everything seems new because nothing is stored. This also explains why distant past memories are told clearly, while what happened yesterday is already lost. Dementia preserves old memories longer but affects recent memory early on. This behavior might be mistaken for talking too much or neediness, but it must be recognized as a warning sign. Continuous repetition is a direct reflection of cognitive decline, and the frustration it causes, both for the person and their companions, can lead to conflicts, impatience, and emotional suffering. That's why empathy and support are essential. Families often only realize something's wrong when this repetition becomes uncontrollable. But the earlier it's identified and treated, the better the chances of slowing progression. Memory stimulation strategies and proper medical care make all the difference at this stage. Now comes the most important moment. In the next chapter, you'll find out what the worst sign of all is. The most dangerous, the quietest, and precisely because of that, the most ignored. Don't miss it. Number 1. Forgetting important recent events. Imagine forgetting you have a doctor's appointment today, even though you talked about it several times in recent days. Or not remembering you already ate lunch. Or completely forgetting a conversation you had just a few hours ago. Forgetting important recent events is the most worrying and earliest sign of dementia. And also the most dangerous because it's often mistaken for normal aging stuff. This kind of forgetting isn't about lack of attention. The person really didn't register the event in their mind. It's as if it never happened. Different from forgetting where you left your keys and later remembering. Here the information simply wasn't stored. And the scarier the forgotten event, the clearer it is that there's a serious short-term memory failure. This forgetfulness can cause dangerous situations. The person might leave home forgetting where they were going, leave the oven on and walk away, or take medication more than once because they don't remember taking it. These episodes show the brain is failing at its most basic organizational and safety functions. That's why this symptom demands maximum attention and immediate action. When this kind of forgetting happens often, it impacts all life areas: work, relationships, autonomy, and even self-esteem. The person feels like they're losing control of their own mind and often tries to hide these lapses so as not to worry others. This hiding behavior just delays diagnosis and chances of effective treatment. The worst thing is this symptom is often ignored. People say it's just age, everyone forgets, or it's normal. But it's not. Frequently forgetting important appointments, confusing days and times, not remembering recent conversations, all this must be taken seriously. Because this is the start of memory collapse, and that's when dementia begins its work. If you or someone close is showing this kind of forgetfulness, don't wait. Seek specialized help. Dementia is progressive, but with early diagnosis, support, and proper care, it's possible to live with better quality for much longer. The first step is recognizing the most dangerous symptom of all. And now you know what it is. And to keep getting the best videos for your health and well-being, subscribe to the channel. It exists for a simple reason: to help you become a stronger and happier person. And in the video that's showing up on your screen right now, I reveal 11 powerful herbs to naturally reduce intestinal inflammation. To watch that video, just click on the screen.